Hey everyone, either welcome back or welcome to my channel. And in today's video, I want to talk about how sleep affects IIH, and particularly what I've noticed since being injured, because there has been some things that I've noticed from having an injury and sleeping more that I want to talk about. So before I get too far into any details, time for the intro. Hey everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Ashley Stewart. So 2018 was actually a pretty hard year for me, but it was also a pretty good year too. So I completed my bachelor's degree in biochemistry, but at the same time, I was also diagnosed with a rare condition called idiopathic intracranial hypertension, or IIH. Some of you may also know this by its older name called pseudotumor cerebri. So, if you're curious to learn more about what it's like to live with this rare condition, then I encourage you to watch on. Don't forget to subscribe, and I upload new content every Monday and Thursday afternoon. One thing that has been probably a good thing to come out of this whole injury situation is because of extra fatigue from using the crutches, I have been sleeping a little bit more deeply and a little bit longer and more than I normally do. I know that when I was on the topiramate, I really wasn't sleeping well. And I'm not sure if this was because of the medication or something else. And it was actually said on medication that can make you drowsy, but I never did get that side effect like I did from the amitriptyline. And mentioning that amitriptyline, now I'm starting to wonder if the amitriptyline was the reason why I was actually feeling better, because I was sleeping deeper and I was getting into the deep sleep and sleeping enough hours that I wasn't as tired all the time. Now, with this injury, I am exhausted a little bit more than normal, but I notice particularly when I'm not in much pain that I am sleeping a little bit better with the injury. So I wanted to talk about this because I think there's something to say about maybe the ability to sleep helping this a little bit. Like I said, this is just something that I've noticed from the injury. I haven't seen any research on the effect of IIH and sleep that I've ever come across. I'm not sure if it's out there or not. There's such limited research on IIH as it is. I think a lot of us sometimes feel worse because we aren't getting adequate sleep. So, like I've said before in some of my other videos, when you're in an immense amount of pain, whether it's from an injury, whether it's from chronic illness, and especially with IIH because we're dealing with a chronic pain situation. I know for me, when things get really, really bad, you're dealing with a headache. I've got the sore back of the head. So if you're dealing with a lot of pain and you're not very comfortable at night, sleep is really, really difficult. And I had this happen, and I think it was in May, a lot of it, where I think I wasn't sleeping. Like, I was getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep, but it wasn't well rested sleep. So it wasn't the sleep that you feel your best with. So now that I've had this injury, because it's exhausting, honestly, just getting up and going to the bathroom, even though it's really not that far in this house. Like, my house is really small, and it's it would be less distance here than it would be at the old house if I was still there. So, it's not really that far. And just getting up and going to the bathroom a few times a day is exhausting. And then you're also dealing with sometimes the fatigue on top of that from the IIH too. So it makes you really, really exhausted. And it seems like I'm sleeping really, really deeply when I do. There has been a few nights again where I haven't been very comfortable, mostly due to my ankle. So there's that. And sometimes because of my head, but honestly, it hasn't been as bad as what it can be sometimes. So I'm thankful for that. The exhaustion can get to the point where the sleep doesn't help anymore, and you kind of have to go until you run out completely of energy. I've had this happen many times in university, especially close to the end of the semester. By the time you get to that end of the third month and you're in the final sprint with assignments, exams, all of that, you're so tired that you're just exhausted. Like, it's an exhaustion. And now it would depend for everybody, because some of us get lucky and we don't have much at the end of the semester that's kind of clumped together. Like, you don't have a bunch of assignments or little exams or little quizzes or homework that's you got to get done. But honestly, like, even if you don't have those required things that you have to do, you're still exhausted because now you're starting exam prep for those first few exams that are right when classes end pretty much. So you're starting that very heavy studying, but you're still having to do it around classes. So it's not quite as effective, and you're still being introduced to material that is covered on the exams in those classes. So that last little, I would say 2 weeks of a university semester are probably some of the worst but best times. The best time is actually finals, the way my finals used to work, because, like I said, you're only doing exams and studying. I mentioned that before. The worst, absolute worst time for me was around mid-semester, but it would be about the start of the second month usually. So the first month is not usually too bad. It starts to increase in activity by the end of the third-ish week of the semester. Then the fourth week, you can start to have exams in some classes, which is why it starts to get a little bit worse in that third week. Then you hit the midterms that are usually clumped together because there's usually something going on that all the professors want to have all their exams done by a certain period of time. And then this will be good for a little bit, and then you'll have another little increase. It just depends on if your classes have more than one exam, basically, as to how your increase in how much work you have to be doing. And remember, the hours in a day never change. And so that's definitely the most stressful. And it's just something that I've noticed in particular with this kind of stuff, is the fact that it's reminding me of the tiredness that you can experience when you're closing in on almost needing a break. Now, there are some students who don't really face this issue. They don't have really any problems, but I know for me, I can't work and work and work and work and work without a break. I found that out very early on when I was working retail, and even 4 or 5 hours a day, it's like, this really shouldn't be bothering me. Like, I have, so 4 or 5 hours, you still have about 11 hours that you have to yourself and you can rest. But honestly, it's your body still feels that you're working every day. So I don't know. I figured that out when I was working retail, that I wasn't one to be able to work and work and work and work and work without a consistent break and having consistent days off. And it was probably one of the best lessons I learned about myself. Don't forget, if there's something that you want to add to the comments down below, you can definitely do that. And as for now, that's it for today. Bye everyone!